Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today we're diving into SEO, how to rank on Google. And I am so excited to bring you Sharon McCaskill. She's the founder of SEO with Sharon, where she helps busy bloggers capture traffic and leads from search engines with done-for-you SEO services. Sharon used the power of SEO to grow her food blog, thehelpfulgf.com, and is passionate about helping other business owners do the same. Sharon is a pastor's wife, mom of two, is a full-time graduate student working towards an MS in nutrition and dietetics with registered dietitian credentials. She's brilliant at SEO. She's really mastered this. We even brought her in as our SEO expert within Activate. So she runs SEO clinics for our students a couple times a month. And you're just going to learn so much about how to rank on Google. So let's dive in. Hey Sharon, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Amazing. I'm excited to dive into all things SEO with you. Why don't we start off? How did you get into SEO? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I started a website back in 2018. It's a food blog focused on gluten-free. And I did a couple different things to try to grow that. I definitely used Pinterest. I used your Pinterest course. I used social media, all types of things. And kind of roundabout, I started learning about SEO just on my own, and I started implementing it. And that's where I saw my long-term tremendous growth. And I just found it so fun and easy to do. I don't know why I found it fun. Maybe I'm ridiculous, but I did. I think it just was clear and logical to me. And just roundabout, I started realizing that other people that are doing really good on other platforms like podcasting, YouTube, that there's a gold mine waiting to be had in using Google to get traffic. And so I just started doing services for people and stuff like that. And it just kind of grew from there.
Incredible. So talk to us. SEO stands for what, for those of us who don't know?
Yes, search engine optimization. So basically, when somebody says SEO, they're just talking about what you do on your website to get traffic from Google, but those other search engines as well. Because what works for Google, in large part, works for Bing, DuckDuckGo, as well as voice engines like Alexa.
Got it. So what are some of the benefits of getting traffic from Google?
Okay, so I think the biggest benefit to getting traffic from Google is that something like 70 to 75% of people, when they have a question, they use a search engine to find their answer. And so I think the biggest benefit to that is that there's millions of people searching for answers. And as an entrepreneur, you can be the person that provides that answer for them quickly without the need to be flashy, without the need to be posting every day. Once you answer that question and you're writing good content to rank on Google, you can climb and you can be there for a really long time.
What kind of content ranks well on Google?
Yeah, I think the content that ranks the best on Google is number one, question and answer. So, answering people's questions, which I think we do all the time as entrepreneurs. We find out their questions in market research. This is just creating in-depth content, answering their questions. So that's the first thing. The other things that rank really well on Google are how-tos. So like how to blank, as well as list posts, like the 7 top blank or the 15 blank, or review posts. I think those are the 4 things that really, really drive Google traffic.
Got it. What do you where do you do your keyword research to figure out what you're actually going to use in a blog post?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, there's endless places to do that research. And I think this is where people get bogged down and spend way too much time doing SEO when they're learning. But it's also important. So you can find a lot just on Google, honestly. Google auto suggests things as you're typing it in. Those are keywords, those are questions that people are looking for answers for. You'll see on Google, people also ask. Those are great questions to answer in posts. Down at the bottom, they have related searches. So you can find a lot from Google. If you want more information than that, which I think as you learn more about SEO, you should have to determine what type of content is most worth your time to write. Keywords Everywhere is a free extension that you can get for Chrome, and I really like it. And if you want to pay for a little more data with them, it's like pennies for more data, which I think, especially when you're just starting, is perfect. You do not have to spend $100, $200 a month, or even buy something for $100 lifetime to get that data. You can get it for pennies with keywords everywhere.
Cool. So when you're doing your SEO research, what kind of like competition and search volume do you want to see?
Yeah. So what I think is the best is to find something that has a little bit of a lower search volume, but very low competition. So, I mean, if you find something that's huge search volume with very low competition, that's amazing. Those are hard to find. But I really think that targeting keywords that only get like 300 or 400 searches a month are definitely worth your time to write on if they have a very low competition, because the top posts that rank on Google and bring traffic are actually targeting something like 200 keywords on average, which sounds overwhelming and crazy. We're not writing posts with 200 keywords in mind. Those are synonyms, those are related topic that as an expert you're going to be including in that post anyways. But if you think about it, the keywords getting 400 searches, low competition. Related keywords are also getting 100 to 500. You can really get a ton of traffic from that post.
So using a search term that only has 100 searches in it, 100 searches per month, you're saying like we could still get a ton of traffic from it?
Yeah, totally. If it's low competition and if you're ranking number one. I mean, even if you think about it, even if all you ever get from that is 100 clicks a month, 100 clicks a month
It
over
adds
time for
up.
a post that's ranking on number one that you
Yeah,
never have to post again on social media, like, I don't think that's not worth your time.
totally. When we're writing the blog post, what are some things that we should keep in mind?
Yeah, so things I would keep in mind is definitely getting to the point and answering their questions. So I would take those related keywords, especially if you find those like related questions, FAQs, definitely include those in your headings and answer the questions underneath. Um, Use your headings well, right? So like use your H1 heading. I'm going to get into some of the lingo here, right? Your H1 heading's your title, only use one of those. Use your H2 and H3 headings to make your points. And I think when I think about headings, I like to say keep your post skimmable. Most people are not reading every word of your content, but they're going to look through and those headings will jump out and they'll find the content they want in your post
Yep.
through those headings. So use your headings well. I think that's the biggest thing that you can start doing to really show up, and use your keywords, you know, frequently, but do not use them too much. You do not need to write them 20 times in your content. That's ridiculous. Write
How
them how
many
you would
times
normally
should
speak.
we use it? Yeah.
Um, that's tricky. I do not think there's a cut and dry answer to that. I think if you're writing like a 1,200 word post, you should keyword 5 to 8 times. I don't think that's too much. But at the same time, realize that people don't always use the exact same word to say something. So you want to use synonyms and you want to use those things naturally, like how you would speak. So, just as an example, in different regions of the US as well as around the world, people use different words for the same thing. So we have like grilled cheese sandwich. People also call it a toasted cheese. In the
What?
UK, I've heard that before. I know. In the UK, they call it a cheese toasty.
What?
Okay. I
What?
know. But like even thinking about what are other words people use for this,
Oh,
and vary your keywords naturally. Use different tenses, past tense, present tense, future tense in your words, plural, not plural, right? So we might say use it 5 to 10 times, but like use those variations of the same keyword.
so does it matter if the keyword has like an and or an or a but and like we're moving some of the words around, or does it have to be like spot on how it
I would
is?
use it spot on at least 1 or 2 times if it's that main keyword you're targeting. But you definitely, I mean, rearrange your words. Use it with and, use it with but, use it those different ways. Because if you think about a real person, right, and you're trying to reach real people, think about what they type into Google. Some people might say best cell phone cases for iPhone, or they might say the top cell phone cases, or best iPhone cell cases, right? Or something like that.
Mhm.
People use words in different ways when they're speaking, when they're typing, when they're looking for something. So use all those different variations. That's just, I think, best practice for reaching somebody with their own language.
Got it. How long should the post be?
So I think that depends a little bit, but in general, the top posts that rank on Google are closer to about 2,000 words per post.
Mhm.
That does not mean you stuff completely irrelevant content, right? People like pick on bloggers all the time, right? Like, I don't care what you had for breakfast, just tell me what the best cell phone case is or something, right?
Yep.
So not irrelevant stuff, keep it relevant, but give them more information. If everything you know about this topic is only 600 words, I recommend you add some frequently asked questions or something at the bottom, and expand your post a little bit. Because what you do not want, and what I think is more important than just the length of your post, is you don't want somebody to find you on Google or for Pinterest for that matter, click through to your post, read it, and have questions, and they didn't get their questions answered, and they bounce from your site. You want
Oh,
them to
yeah.
read your post. You want them to get into it and realize this person has the thing that I need. That's how you
Mhm.
turn somebody onto your email list. That's how you get them as a client.
Amazing. How do you outrank your competition?
That's a really good question. Um, I really think the best way to outrank your competition, two things. I'm going to say two things. Number one, write better content than your competition. So when you're writing a new post, look through what your competition is doing, not to copy your competition. But what I do is I do that keyword research, I write my post, I make it the best that I think it is, and then I go look at, for these main keyword, maybe the top 3 keywords I'm trying to target, what are they writing about? And I see, did I miss something that
Hmm.
everybody else is including? And if I did, I need to add that back in, because Google knows what those top posts are writing about, and they're in those top positions because Google is saying this is the best content for this.
Hmm.
So I think that's the number one thing you do is you make your post better, right? You want to be the best. The second thing I think you do is you revisit your content after it's published. So it takes, if you're a new blogger, right, or new entrepreneur, new website, whatever it is, it might take 6 to 12 months for Google to really find your content
Hmm.
and recognize it as authoritative. But over time, you can go back to that content and you can edit it, you can update it, all those things. So once you're already ranking on Google, I really like to go back and visit what keywords am I ranking for, right? So look at your like Google Search Console, those free tools that Google gives you. What am I ranking for? What keywords? And maybe you're ranking for keywords you didn't expect.
Hmm.
So if you're ranking for that, make sure you maximize your post with that so you can really get into those top positions.
You are just on fire. So much knowledge. I'm loving this. This is so good. What about images? What are some things we should do when we're uploading an image?
Yeah, so I think the first thing you need to do when you're uploading your image is, I'm going to talk about WordPress here, right? Put those images into your WordPress media library and edit your title, your image title, which actually you need to edit that before you upload it. I would make your image titles keyword relevant. I would not keep them as IMG 4265 or whatever your phone saved it as.
Mhm.
Make it relevant to that content or what's in the image. Edit your alt description in your media library. Your alt description is not a place to stuff keywords. Only include them if it's relevant to the image. You want to describe what's in your picture. So describe that. And then in your description, you can put another keyword or two in there, right? Describe it. But I like to put that in the media library because I know we are resourceful on our site and we may use that image multiple places on our website. And that's fine. And you can do that. But that way, all that information is there and you don't have to remember every time you use that image, like, oh, I need to update this. I need to update this. So
Yep.
I like to do all that in my media library. When you're including it in your blog post, you want to specify an image size. Don't just leave it as like whatever it uploaded as automatically. Use that bar on the side and set your image size. And the last thing is you want your images to be below the scroll. So I know with like opt-ins and stuff, we always talk about you want that opt-in button you want them to see that. You don't want them to scroll to opt in. But it's a similar mindset with your content. People are landing on your site to read content, not look at pictures, right? We look at pictures on Instagram. You want them to land on it and know this is what I'm here to read, and I see it here. And then as you scroll, you see pictures. And that does two things. It helps people from bouncing from your site to go somewhere else because they landed and they're like, is this what I clicked? I don't know. And the other thing it does is it helps your post load faster, right? When somebody loads. So you're not like waiting for an image to load and then the text is bouncing around, waiting for this thing above that's slowly loading, right? Helps your content show up faster. Those are the two things that I think are most important to do with images.
Okay. And you mentioned WordPress. Do you suggest we have our blog on WordPress?
Yes, I do.
Why?
WordPress is, first of all, super customizable. So you can make it do almost anything you want it to do. And WordPress is becoming much more user-friendly in terms of being able to update it to build pages and things like that. It's so much easier than back when I started in 2018. So that's the first thing. Second of all, it's fast. It doesn't have all these special things in it to make it like do fancy, exciting things. You can just either code that yourself or get a couple plugins to make it happen, as opposed to other sites that are really just a glorified like sales page builder, which has lots of bells and whistles that make them really load slow. If you're not on WordPress, probably the next best option for SEO would be Squarespace, but WordPress really is the best. I mean, if you want to rank on Google, I would say.
Got it.
If that's your goal.
Right. Are there any plugins that you would suggest?
Yeah, the main plugin that I think you really need, and is the only one, there's two. One is you want an image compressor. Okay, so you want to make those images smaller files. That's just good for your site storage and keeping things fast. The second thing is I really recommend having the Yoast plugin, Yoast. You can get by without Yoast, but you'll need something similar. And that's because Google needs a sitemap and Yoast gives it that. So Google needs a map of your site so they can actually show up in Google results. The other thing that's nice about Yoast is it lets you edit like your meta description, which is that little thing that shows up on Google. So like if you show up on Google, it has your post title and then it has that little description. That's your meta description. You can customize that using Yoast. And I really think those are the two main reasons why you need Yoast. But it also helps you. It lets you see how many times you've used your keyword. It notes readability scores and things like that, that I just think are helpful. And it keeps you from like counting and things like that in your post, which they don't have to.
Right. Is Yoast free or is it paid?
Yes. Both.
Both. Okay.
You don't need the paid.
Got it.
I don't think you need the paid.
What mistakes do you see people making with SEO?
I think the biggest two mistakes I see people making is they're just trying to reach giant, big search terms that are super general instead of getting really specific and writing content that answers specific questions that their client has, or giving very specific advice. So targeting those keywords that are maybe not searched as much, but they're more likely to rank for.
Can you give examples of ones that you're ranking on that are specific so people can see? And I'll give some of mine too.
Yeah. So like I said, I have a food blog, right?
Right.
I am not ranking number one on Google for gluten-free recipes. Not happening, right? Like Food Network, New York Times Cooking, these huge sites are going to rank for those. But I can rank for really specific recipes that somebody is looking for, right? So like, and I don't actually have a gluten-free lasagna post, but a good idea, like instead of just gluten-free lasagna, I'm more likely to rank for that than gluten-free recipe, right? But even getting more specific, gluten-free lasagna with hidden veggies or gluten-free lasagna with spinach or something like that, I'm even more likely to rank for because it's even more specific. So writing content that's as specific as possible and targets somebody's very specific question on Google.
Yeah. And I'll give examples of some of the ones that we rank for at the top. How to use keywords on Pinterest. So instead of just like Pinterest marketing, which there's a lot of competition for that from like big names, like Neil Patel and Tailwind and all of that, how to use keywords on Pinterest, we're easily at the top for the past couple of years, which is great. Endomorph diet plan for beginners. Like how niche and specific is that? I love it. So listen to what Sharon's saying and get niche and specific.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing about Google that I know Pinterest does as well, but you can really become an authority in your lane, like in your topic. So
Yep.
as you start ranking for those keywords in that super specific niche that you're in, Google will recognize other things in that, and it creates what we call like a content cluster. Like, so now you're ranking on all these really related terms.
So you have your website and you're using Google search terms. There's other search engine platforms like Pinterest and YouTube and podcasting. Can you use the same keyword on Google that you would use on Pinterest that you would use on YouTube? Or do you need to find different keywords for each platform?
Yes and no. So if you think about user intent, I think I'm going to talk about YouTube first because I feel like it's more specific than the other ones. I think the other ones are similar. YouTube is really driven by an algorithm based on similarity. So it's not so much search driven, it's much more like related video driven. So like Google sees those terms that you're using in your video and sees people that watch this also watch this. And that's how you really get your content suggested. So yes, it's search driven, but people are going on YouTube much more to be entertained than necessarily finding answers to questions. Now, I say that with a big caveat because I know I personally go on YouTube to figure out like how to do things on my website, right? So like, how do I connect my Google Analytics? Like, I'd rather watch a YouTube video than read a blog post because it literally is showing me like where they're clicking, right? And all of that type of stuff. That kind of content does well in both places. I really think you can repurpose the content from that platform and make it rank well on Google, but it may require more keyword research and a little bit more tweaking.
Got it.
Most likely. Podcasts, those types of things, I think you can transcribe really easily your post and really reformat it for really good blog traffic. But I still think you need to format it with those headings, answering questions really super specifically and clearly. I think that's really important. Pinterest, super similar in terms of keyword research. The difference is when you're looking at auto suggest and things like that, people are maybe searching in Pinterest a little bit differently than they're searching on Google. I think that's the big difference.
Got it. Amazing. This is so good. So good. Anything I missed?
I don't think
I'm sure
so.
you could go on for like days. Like
yeah,
you know so much.
I have to stop at some point. No, I think the biggest thing I would say is especially if you're a rock star on YouTube, if you're killing it in like your podcast downloads and stuff, I really think that you have content that you can repurpose on a website. And by doing it the right way, you can really start getting Google traffic. Because like I said, something like 75% of searches, when somebody's looking for an answer to their question, they're looking on Google first.
Yep. Amazing. What's one of the best books you've read?
Ooh, so I think like the number one is going to be the Bible, mostly because every time I read it, I'm like pulling out different stuff like, oh, I missed out the first 6 times I read that. But when it comes to business, I really liked You're a Badass at Making Money because it changed my whole outlook on money mindset completely.
Yep. Very good. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
I think to make an impact is to make yourself the best that you can be. So I think of that as like, who did God create me to be and what did he create me to do? Like, how do I become that? And then how do I help other people do that too? I think that's impact.
Yeah. Where can we connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me at SEO with Sharon, and that's SHARON.com. So that's my SEO site. And while you're there, you can grab my freebie. So I have a little PDF download, little mini ebook that is the 6 things you need to rank #1 on Google.
Ooh, amazing. I'm going to go get that. Sharon, you're incredible. Thank you so much for being here. And we learned a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.